So here we have the RB30, which is out of the R33. So I'm going to start to pull this thing to pieces. I need the head, all of this top section from this bolt along, and we're going to bolt that to the RB28 block. So this RB30 block will, I guess, be for sale. So I'll just do a little walk around of the engine before it actually gets pulled to pieces. So it still runs a single plate clutch with a whole lot of clamp, massive clamp. So they reckon 4,350 pounds. That's what they rate these at. I know that this thing's made around 600 kilowatts with that clutch in it, and I've never had it slip. So single plates seem to work. Some guys like them, some guys don't. For this engine, it works well. Got the automatic bell housing with the hydraulic release, which works nicely with that. And manifold setup, so we run a 1.25 inch exhaust manifold runner size, a 60mm wastegate, and a Borg-Warner EFR 8374 turbo with a single scroll exhaust housing, mainly for sound reasons. We used to run a twin scroll on it. The twin scrolls seem to muffle the sound a bit more than what a single scroll does. So I'm hoping this combination on the RB28 should sound pretty awesome, because at the moment it sounds pretty good as it is. So we have factory RB26 intake manifold. So the benefit of that is we get 6 throttle bodies, so individual throttle bodies. You won't be able to see much there, you might see them moving. Each cylinder has its own throttle body. Let's see it turning. And that just gives it real good response underfoot. So if you're in neutral and you just tap the accelerator just quickly, it will rev much quicker than it would normally, or the engine will respond much quicker than it would normally using a throttle body which sits up here, for example. So if you had a big single throttle body, they just don't quite give the foot response, or sort of the engine response is as good as these. It's got nothing to do with turbo spool. It's just more so when you're in between gear changes, or you know, you're doing some high-speed drifts, you come off the gas, and you're just trying to keep the rev match the car to where it needs to be. It just takes less time for the engine to rev where it needs to be with these individual throttle bodies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rather than having one big throttle body butterfly here. We have still run factory style engine mounts. These are urethane engine mounts. I've never run this engine solid mounted. A lot of guys do, they seem to get away with it. I've always been a believer in having a little bit of rubber or urethane or something in the car somewhere. Front of the engine, full dry sump setup, so it's a Ross Performance dry sump, 4-stage pump. So we've got these three vacuums. They suck oil out of the engine, and this one actually pushes oil, when it's got a hose, pushes oil into the engine. I've just pulled the clutch off, which you can see has had quite a beating. It's not too bad for the amount of tyres this thing's fried. Flywheel. I guess the biggest issue is, you can see on the clutch itself, it's sort of disintegrating. So I'll definitely replace this part here. But all in all, it's not too bad for the amount of abuse this really gets. These clutches hate to be slipped, they hate heat. I think with a single plate clutch, there's always going to be a little bit of slip, because there's only one, I guess, clutch plate. With the amount of surface area this has compared to, say, a twin plate or a triple plate, it's hard for it to bite immediately, but that's what probably keeps this thing together, because this still runs a factory crankshaft. So in the past I've run triple plate clutch, and I've snapped factory crankshafts. I know other people have also done the same thing, but ever since running a single plate clutch, I've never had issues with breaking crankshafts, and it also feels a lot more cushioned when you dump the clutch, you know, under a lot of power. So I think this, having this single plate clutch, is the key to stopping snapping RB30 crankshafts, because factory crankshafts are quite brittle. So I've just pulled the front off the engine, intake manifold. I'm going to get that painted, as well as the cam covers, the covers that go over the top of the engine. I'll get them all painted up. Unfortunately, these camshafts don't allow me to get a socket down there and get that head bolt off. So the camshafts need to come out to be able to lift the head off. And that's that. So heads off, sitting over there ready to go on the RB28. This thing is now for sale, so if anyone needs a forged RB30 block, hit me up. It looks like it's in pretty good nick. Still see all the hone marks. It's not coming with these head bolts, so move those over to the RB28. These are 11mm bolts, so 12mm bolts. RB25s run 11mm bolts, so we'll drill out the block to fit the bigger bolts. And that is the end of RB30 life. Goodbye.